I'm Chef Monty, and the Little Tin Kitchen presents Plated in Perspective. Here we're going to stir, season, and plate while passing around a little something more than recipes. Every single conversation is like cooking. Measured in moments, seasoned with experience. I do believe that wisdom can be served through every bite. I want to speak to my younger self, or really the 20-year-olds kind of navigating life right now. There's a complexity with personal growth and complex relationships that you develop throughout life. At what age did you really decide to release relationships that really no longer serve the grand purpose of who you were growing into?
Subjective.
By the way, instead of buying 00 flour, I found this to be another option here. Just kind of sift through it a little more. So we're going to be making some Italian pasta. I made up a rule for myself. You're not allowed to come into my life with unmitigated chaos. And don't get me wrong, there was a time and a place where that was absolutely okay. So this is the portion, ladies, gentlemen, theys, and thems, where you want to, on a clean surface, make the flour into a mound. You should represent the shape of a volcano. Why? Because we don't want our scrambling eggs to reach the outer surface of our flour wall. What does that mean? So when I say relationships, let me clarify. I mean friends, family, just people in general close in proximity to you. My motto has always been, whether you meet a person for 5 minutes, 50 minutes, 5 years, or 50 years, they still meant something within your life. Believe me when I say every lesson counts. For it to be billions of people in this world and somehow you retain access to an individual person is just very unique to me. Now, how long they stick in your life should be something that should be continuously assessed within your life, especially in the direction that you're growing. So just as an update, what we just finished doing is aerating our eggs, giving it a slight whisk, and then I like to add a little bit of olive oil just so the flour doesn't stick. Makes for a light airiness to say. Also, we want to have preventative measures for sticky pasta. Yuck. So we tend to have this undervaluing of growth because of a mixed mindset, social pressures, and perspective. There's comparison culture where we're always measuring ourselves against others' timelines. Even if someone hits a milestone faster, it makes your own progress feel small, even when it's very meaningful. There's also the invisible progress, where your growth truly looks quiet. You're setting boundaries, healing, and learning, and simply not reacting the way that you used to, because it doesn't always have to be flashy or public for people to dismiss it, or you. Oh, and baby, a nasty one, the familiarity bias. You live with yourself every single day, so of course progress is going to feel normal rather than extraordinary. So what others might admire, you see as just you. Now be mindful of this next statement when I say this. To know yourself is to know that you don't know yourself, meaning perfectionism is truly a plague. If growth doesn't look perfect or complete, some people downplay it. They focus on what is left to do instead of what's already been achieved. Baby, give yourself a pat on the back. So for this next very important step, I want to make sure to be mindful that when you're whisking, try not to break the volcano. Small circles will keep the structure of your foundation, and you'll want to go through several steps. It should start to look like cream of wheat, then it should start looking like a very thick mashed potato. And once we get to that step, I'll notify you of how we're supposed to look like here soon. Let's zoom in on in here. Thicker than a snicker. Another example of undervaluing your personal growth is external validation, where honestly we're conditioned to believe that accomplishments only count when others recognize them. So private, internal victories get overlooked all of the time. And last but not least, the fear of pride. because a lot of people are taught not to celebrate themselves because it seems arrogant. For a lot of those people, they confuse self-recognition with boasting. And it's okay to pat yourself on the back. And you should have a group of people around you willing to do the same and vice versa with them. But there comes a time when a growth period happens. So remember at the beginning when I said that statement. Now, keep in mind that in reality, growth compounds, the small, quiet shifts that often lay foundation to the big visible picture later. Undervaluing your growth makes it harder to see how far that you've actually come. So I say that to say, do things in your 20s for the plot. There really isn't a stupid decision unless it's just something that's asinine, that's putting you in danger. The more experience that you have and things that you try out, the more you'll be able to collect that data and really decipher the who and what you want to have in your life, especially about time you reach your 30s. I don't even think some people even turn a blind eye towards red flags. They just kind of mistake them for hot pink. But these days, you have to do some work to keep access of you in your space, in your life, in your energy, in your autonomy. So I'll pose this question to you to ponder while we continue to make our pasta here. If your growth wasn't visible to anyone else, how would you measure it for yourself? Leave a comment, if you will. And also DM me with your permission to possibly read anonymously for the next show. So with this next step here, I'm basically taking some of the flour and continuously pushing it on the inside of its surface point. The dough is starting to form really good here. By the end, you should have the consistency of clay. And also as a tip, never wash your hands with water during this process. If your hands start to get sticky, just add more flour and rub them together. And if you missed our pasta classes, don't worry. There's only 350 different types of pasta that we have to get through. I taught the linguine and fettuccine style, but there's tagliatelle, pappardelle, caponelli, versamilli, panini, rigatoni, ziti, fusilli, rotini, captivani, macaroni. We'll get through them all eventually. And yes, I know I butchered a few names, but don't kill me. Now, this process will take a little bit of elbow grease. You should be leaning your weight and constantly stretching out the dough. When you knead and stretch, the gluten strands from the network that gives the pasta its elasticity and chew get stretched out. So, by all means, you want to keep this process going. There's also sizing for rolling. When you're doing more thin sheets of pastas, you want to use more like butter, creams, light tomato sauces. If you're doing thicker sheets, then you want something a little bit more hearty, like a ragu or chunky sauces. Unlike other modern recipes for pasta, pasta is tactile. You mix, you knead, you stretch, you shape it with your hands. It's a very intimate type of style. Good pasta cannot be rushed. So if you plan on rushing through it like a Rachel Ray 30-minute meal, this probably isn't the recipe for you because you even have to let the dough rest. And also, unlike factory pasta, handmade pastas are never identical. Each piece carries a mark of the person who shaped it. There's intimacy in knowing that this was touched, crafted, and cared for by human hands. Now, remember at the beginning when I had a conversation with you about complex relationships? Well, what exactly do I mean by that? I feel as if a lot of people confuse chemistry with compatibility. Sparks are very exciting, but they don't guarantee sustainability. Paying attention to how someone shows up, especially in the hard moments, not just the fun ones, are a telltale sign about which avenues they should move in within your life. And it absolutely does not mean cutting an individual off. So it makes it a little bit easier with some of the newfound friendships that setting up boundaries early is not about you being difficult. It just teaches people how to treat you in the right ways. The longer you go without them, the harder it will be in time to put them in place. You are going to learn a lot about your own family's patterns, your own insecurities, or past heartbreaks. Collecting that data and moving forward helps you mitigate the repeating cycle instead of you creating something new with the same repeating patterns. And also shrinking yourself for other people. If you find yourself and your light being dimmed, just to keep someone else comfortable, child, that's not love. That's control disguised as care. And I know half y'all just want to be seen and be in a mix, but you don't want to have that type of eye on you. It's okay to choose value over vibes. Looks fade, energy shifts, but shared value is always a vision that carries a relationship forward. And you are young. Your 20s will test your ability to let go of people you thought you would have in your life forever. And that doesn't mean you failed. Sometimes that just means you need to love from a distance. And sometimes it means you finally learned your worth. Because you have to stick around for part 2 or attend one of the classes where I show you the rollouts of what you can do with this pasta. But this is your base. The full recipe of this episode will be posted below. And if you can, if you must, if you will, chime into the conversation ahead. We have many recipes to share and a lot of topics to discuss. Sometimes the pasta is undercooked, rushed, unready, not yet what you need it to be. Sometimes it's overcooked. You stayed too long, got it tangled, and lost the texture of what it was. And then every once in a while, you get it just right. What's the lesson here? Your 20s aren't about serving the perfect dish. They're about experimenting, tasting, and learning patience and realizing that timing matters just as much as the ingredients. By the time you hit your 30s, you know what al dente feels like, in pasta and in love. Bon appetit.